In 2020, there was estimated to be 5.2 trillion pieces of plastic waste in our oceans and at least 8 million tonnes added each year. So you're probably sat thinking, I live nowhere near the beach. How does this affect me in Atherstone? Over the next 40 minutes, we will take you on an amazing journey to explore the depths of plastic pollution in our community, how a single business can create a big impact on our environment today, and what steps we can all take to limit the impact of pollution created by waste. It's common knowledge that single-use plastics are having a dramatic impact not only globally but locally, right on your doorstep. In this programme we aim to identify the little things we can all do in the fight to rid us of single-use plastics and non-degradable products which find their ways into the surrounding waterways and ultimately into our oceans. Plastic debris breaks down into smaller pieces called microplastics. These are then ingested by fish and eaten by us. So how does a tiny little microplastic harm me? Some microplastics miscreate release toxins. These could then find their way into the bloodstream and ultimately into the muscle and fat of the fish, the things we may eat. These toxins could then enter our bloodstream. In some studies, scientists have linked some of these toxins to many health conditions in humans. So not only is plastic pollution harming and killing our marine wildlife, but eventually, unless we take action, it may be harming us.
So no matter how far you live from the coast, plastic will always find its way back to you. How can we change this? The solution could be quite simple. Refuse single-use plastics. Find alternatives when you can. Recycle, reuse where possible, or even upcycle. The list is endless, but it all starts with you.
During this programme, we get to speak to businesses and organisations who are doing just that. We get to look at how our recycling is processed and how we could possibly do just a little bit more, as well as helping the consumer limit the amount of waste that needs to be recycled. But first we wanted to speak to our local MP, Craig Tracy, to ask what steps our government are taking to identify how we can tackle more effectively the issue of single-use plastics and pollution locally.
Well, so I think this is something that government are doing a lot of work on at the moment and something that they really do take seriously. They were the first countries, as you probably know, to legislate for net zero carbon by 2050, which has encouraged a load of other countries to get involved. They're world leaders in banning the microbeads in cosmetics, which, you know, again, was something there was a lot of in the press, and there was a lot of worry about the damage that was doing to marine life in particular. And also they've been a world leader recognised, globally for tackling plastic pollution. So something that they do really take positively. And, I'm really excited that, locally now we're looking at this and how we can involve local people, but also local businesses in being part of the solution.
Quite clearly, there are processes being put into place to help us locally as well as nationally. But we wanted to find out what is happening in our town and how our local small businesses are taking the small steps to help with the reduction in the use of plastics and recycling. We spoke with a few local businesses who are taking these steps to become more sustainable, whether that be to help reduce plastic pollution or tackle air pollution, which ultimately all helps in the fight against climate change.
So when we first started with this, we did want to use more sustainable products. So even from the shop fittings, that everything is reclaimed wood, everything is metal from what we've used from gas pipes and everything like that. So we had this conscious effort to make it a little bit more sustainable and reuse stuff that we've already had or has already been used before. For example, with this desk, it was all handmade, especially from scaffolding boards, old cupboards, drawers. So everything's been completely built through sustainable wood. For example, even for the walls as well, everything scaffolding boards, just to give that nice edgy look, I guess.
My name's Russ Ward. I run Chalk and Linen at Atherstone, Long Street. A few years ago, my wife said to me she's going to start recycling furniture. I've always been in and out of recycling furniture, and I used to dip furniture and then bry wax furniture, stuff like this, things like really old pitch pine cupboards and things like that. Now, the reason why we went into recycling is because we look at flat pack furniture now in the big stores. I shan't name anyone because the standard of furniture manufacturing now is they rely more on glue than they do on nails and screws and dovetails. Only certain companies use dovetail joints. So, for example, this is a little bit of a vintage piece. This is probably about the same age as me, and I'm 57. I am. But you're looking at this. It's a solid oak piece of furniture. It's got solid oak bottoms on it. It's dovetailed on the drawers. And from a decent second-hand shop or a charity shop, and the Neaton have got the two best charity shops I've ever seen, the big ones, you're going to be talking, to buy this, you're going to be talking about £40-50, depending. There has been more of the demand now because people are starting to realise old furniture is much better quality than new furniture. If you'd have had a look round the corner there's a great big white cupboard similar to this with a great big stencil of the Queen in gold on, and that's crackled majorly. Good paintwork. One of my painters did that for me years and years ago. But we keep that just as an example of how you can turn old furniture into something really trendy and something really usable, and it lasts. So all the time looking at recycling, looking at saving yourself money, but you're not just doing that. You're giving yourself a piece of furniture that'll last forever.
So, by making these small changes at point of purchase and taking a stance to help the environment, will help create a path for the customer to limit the amount of waste and single-use plastics they take home with them.
These are some of the simplest of changes which make the biggest impact, like changing your packaging for paper, not plastic. But some businesses are taking it up a stage by investing in an all-electric alternative for deliveries. We met with Split Drinks, a local business who have done just this.
So we've made quite a few changes to help towards saving the planet and that sort of green movement. We started with paper bags, so moving from plastic to paper bags. We also use paper tissue just to wrap the bottles. As you can see, we've got a lot of different suppliers, local gins, rums and ales. And what we do, when they send the packaging to us, instead of just recycling it or binning it, we then just reuse it straight away. So if someone orders online, we can then reuse the packaging, put the bottle in, and then send it off to them. We're also looking for certain suppliers that use reusable bottles. So these pre-mixed cocktails come in a reusable bottle. So after you've drank the cocktail, you can then reuse the bottle in to put flowers in, or to put the ingredients back in to shake another cocktail. We've also, with the ales, moved to cans. So we have quite a few bottles, but we're looking at moving to aluminium cans. The biggest change we've made, due to the pubs being closed most of last year, the increase of our online orders went up, and we were doing a lot of local deliveries. So we thought, instead of driving around in our petrol and diesel cars delivering, we'd purchase an electric van. So we purchased the electric van, and that's going quite well.
So, From next generation of tech to our next generation of end users, our children. How can we help educate our future generations, or are they educating us?
I'm always impressed when I go out into schools and you hear young people talking about, their desire for more recycling, their love of the environment, they want to create better beaches. And I think actually we're educating them, but what they're doing a really, really good job of as well is educating their parents and their grandparents. And I think that's been a real positive of getting these kind of thoughts into the education system as well, so they can help to be part of the solution and part of the drivers of change.
Education is certainly a key factor in tackling these environmental issues, as Craig mentioned, but recycling in the typical sense is not always the direct solution.
We spoke to a local nursery to see how they're using our ways to help educate our youngest residents.
So here at Little Stars we promote reduce, reuse, recycle through our teaching and learning. So apart from the usual junk modelling you might find in early years, we do promote so much more. Our settings are currently working towards a Curiosity Approach accreditation, so that means we are plastic free. We don't actually buy in any usual plastic toys anymore, but instead we use real and authentic resources, and there is no better way to teach children about the awe and wonder of the world than using resources like these. So for example, the children use real crockery at meal times. We have china tea sets in our role play areas. Ornaments and porcelain figurines are great for storytelling. We repurpose old furniture for display. Old hats, old shoes, old bags are fantastic for dressing up. The children just love it. This obviously means we are out in our local tip shops and charity shops all the time supporting our local community. So our parents also get involved as well. We have a donation station outside the front and they help us by collecting things that they no longer want. At the moment we're collecting frames. They're great for displaying children's artwork around the nursery, fits in with our Curiosity Approach. We're collecting squeezy bottles. These are great for children to self-access the paint in our creating stations. We've also asking for things that you'd normally throw out of your kitchen, so old pans and trays, and they are fantastic for our mud kitchens for the children. We've also been collecting wellies from our parents for this season's family project, Wacky Wellies. We're inviting parents and children to come in and plant up a wellie together, and then that goes on display around the nursery to give the children a massive sense of belonging. Our next project is to recycle more of our general waste as a setting. As we do get through quite a bit here, we would love to have recycling bins on site. We are really eager to work with any local authorities to explore any initiatives that might be available to us to try and get this off the ground.
These are some of the actions being adopted from not only at point of sale from some of the smaller businesses, but alternatives to simply placing your items in the recycling bin. Large retail and industry play a big part in the reduction of waste, and we must rely on the major chain stores to implement the necessary procedures to reduce single-use plastics and non-recyclable items. Again, we asked Craig Tracy how industry can play its part locally as well as nationally.
There's certain initiatives that government's putting in place at the moment. I know I've been speaking to Aldi on one of the government consultations, which is around having a single point of responsibility in the supply chain for packaging, and Aldi have been really positive in engaging on that. They're really keen as a business to get rid of all packaging by 2025, which I think is great. And as a constituency business, I'm particularly proud for that to be happening. The government is also introducing as well, to try and get industry to think differently, a 10-point pot plan for a green industrial revolution. So to get businesses, because they'll be starting to buy their machinery now for maybe 20, 30 years time. So we have to encourage them now to be thinking towards the future and help them create that blueprint for what it actually looks like out there.
As we can now all see, things are certainly happening at every level, but what does happen to that waste that we can't, as yet, avoid taking home with us? After the break, we find out just that.
So we have now seen and heard from businesses small and large, what our government plans are both nationally and locally, and how people are taking the small positive steps needed to tackle the issue of single-use plastics and waste pollution. But what we haven't explained yet is how the plastic bottle you may have just bought or the carrier bag that gets blown away ends up 100 miles away in the ocean. Unfortunately, we still have to accept that a relative proportion of waste ends up in our waterways and countryside if it's not recycled correctly. Items can easily be swept away in transport, and with general littering and fly tipping, inevitably litter finds its way into our rivers and waterways, be via storm drains or the elements. The UK has over 1,500 or 200,000 kilometres of discrete waterways, so you can see how easy it is for rubbish and plastics to end up there. So to put this into context, we did our own little experiment. Our task was to see how much litter we could find in just 20 minutes of litter picking on and near our waterways. After just 20 minutes of litter picking, the results speak for themselves.
So as you can see, there is a litter problem locally, but what is worrying is that some of the litter that was found at our beaches could have come from waterways and rivers like ours. What is for certain, the litter we picked by our river did not come from the ocean.
So let's talk about what happens when we recycle. Anyone know the process? When we put the plastic bottle in a recycling bin, where does it go? How does that become new plastic? We spoke to North Warwickshire Borough Council about the process involved, potential targets and future incentives to reduce our waste and help the reduction of single-use plastics.
even though we don't really know how long it takes for recycled products to come back into use, as it were, we are all trying to make the process smoother and to get more people to participate and recycle what they can. So we've done quite a lot in across Warwickshire to do this. At the moment, the recycling rate in Warwickshire is on average just over 50% of waste. That varies, of course, across the county. So 60% in Stratford, 45% in North Warwickshire. Got to do a bit better there. So we've done lots over the years in North Warwickshire, actually. In 2013, we moved from, you had to have all sorts of different bags out on the curbside, and you were the one who had to sort it. And we moved to having the red top bin and with just your card and paper separated out. That had a massive increase in recycling, over 50% it was. So that was really good. And then we moved further in 2019 and we took the insert out and said you could put it all in the red bin, commingled we call that, and that went up by a further 16%. So that has been really effective and we need to do more of that. We are doing more because we're developing this new facility in Coventry along with all the other Warwickshire districts and boroughs and with Solihull, Coventry, Walsall, and we're developing the sub-regional recycling facility, commonly known as the Smurf. We're all going to call it the Smurf. And so this Smurf is going to be state-of-the-art. It'll be a leader in Europe. Using artificial intelligence, we'll be able to sort very quickly and very efficiently. So everyone will be able to commingle. We'll also be able to recycle things we can't do at the moment. So very light plastics, like film, like cling film, which we can't do, but we will be able to do. So, there's lots of other things like that we will hope to increase the recycling rate with. And we need to, because the most expensive thing we can do with our waste is to throw it away or to burn it. So if it goes to landfill, it costs over £110 a tonne. If it goes to the energy plant, it's about £100 a tonne, still expensive. Recycling, round about £45-50 a tonne. So there's quite a lot of difference in terms of the authorities having to dispose of the waste. And of course, it's much better for us for the recycling too. So we're working really hard to make sure that we can get more recycling through. So one of the big problems we've got across the whole of the county and certainly in North Warwickshire is fly tipping, and people don't like it. None of us like it. It looks terrible and it's illegal apart from anything else. And so what can residents do to help? Well, they can make sure that anybody collecting their rubbish is a registered waste disposal person, and all the people in our area are listed on the Environment Agency website, and there's a link to that from North Warwickshire Borough Council's website. So please make sure that you have a certified waste carrier taking your waste away, because you are responsible. If that waste is found and it can be traced back to you because you've employed them, if they're not an authorised dealer, you're the one that could be prosecuted. So if somebody comes up to you and says, I can give me £20 and I'll get rid of that, there's no way they can dispose it for that sort of money. So they're not going to do it properly. So you must ask them for their certificate, and if they haven't got one, don't use them. And if you see fly tipping, please, if you can, take a photograph, report it immediately to the local authority. We'll collect it. If we can find any trace of who it belongs to or who's disposed of it, we will prosecute.
What happens to the general waste and litter collected from our high streets? Is this currently being sorted and recycled?
Currently, this is not sorted or recycled due to operational and financial reasons. However, this waste goes to a local energy recovery facility where it is burnt to produce steam, which in turn produces electricity for homes. The ash left over at the end is then used for aggregate to make roads.
Are there any plans to bring in better recycling facilities to our high streets, such as separate sorting bins, so public can actively recycle whilst out shopping?
Currently, there are no plans to do this. In addition to the reasons I've just said, Collecting recycling in this way on high streets can cause problems with contamination, as the wrong items will often end up in the wrong side of the bin. We are, however, fully supportive of the proposals for the introduction of a deposit return scheme, which will hopefully capture a lot of these materials and reduce the amount of recycling which is littered. Of course, if we can overcome these hurdles, we will actively look at putting recycling bins in our high street to allow people to recycle more waste.
Are there any plans to provide recycling bins for flats in Atherstone who have only communal waste bins?
It's a problem we recognise and are looking into providing recycling bins where logistically possible for residents who don't have the option of recycling at the moment.
So as a council, one of the big things we're doing at the moment is we are a partner in affectionately known as SMURF. It's the sub-regional multi-recycling facility. So it's a bit of a mouthful, hence why we call it affectionately a SMURF. So this is in partnership with Coventry City Council, Warwickshire County Council, other boroughs and districts within Warwickshire. And we are one of the leading partners in that. And that is a facility where household waste can be taken and sorted. All waste gets sorted and recycled. And as much recyclate will be pulled out, including things like, for instance, plastic bags. So that's a major investment by the council, major investment by our partners, but will increase recycling obviously significantly and reduce the amount that's going incinerated. You know, we in North Warwickshire, we don't send any waste to landfill. It all gets sent to or it's incinerated. But clearly, the more you can recycle, the better. So that's multi-million-pound investment by this council and other partners.
So when would you expect this to be up and running?
We're hoping that will be up and running within the next 2 to 3 years. So exciting, very exciting.
What, as a local authority, can be implemented to limit the amount of single-use plastics in our shops now?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I think if it was up to me or if it was up to the council, I'd love to, for instance, ban plastic bags, and replace them with paper bags. But that needs national legislation or national policy. So we as a council can, lobby the government and ask them if there's any plans to introduce that sort of policy. But as a council, one of the things I'm exploring is looking at changing behaviour locally by perhaps working in partnership with the retailers in the borough and looking at introducing paper bags, working in partnership with them to change people's, as I say, behaviour and get them out of the habit of using plastic bags and replace them with paper bags.
Are there any initiatives available for local businesses to help encourage the changes we need to see?
Well, not yet, but that's what we're working on now. I'm working with the director of Streetscape and together with the chair of C&E, and we're looking at seeing what we can do on that to change the behaviour. Key thing is, to me, if you don't have to, don't. Just don't buy plastic bags if you don't have to. That's one of the key messages. Single-use plastics, as I say, it requires national change of policy, and legislation through. But if we can do things on a local level to try and change people's behaviour, then that's I think that would be a good positive move.
As a council, do you fully support the abolishment of single-use plastics, carrier bags and other unnecessary non-degradable products?
I would support absolutely, 100%. Yes.
And I think if you take a step back and see how people's attitudes have changed over the last few years, 2015 we brought in the charge for single-use plastic carrier bags. I've just seen some figures on that, and the consumption and the use of those has reduced by 95% in that time, which is brilliant progress. And I think, so it shows where there is actually the incentive and people are made aware of the issues, then they do get on board and actually support it. And you know, I remember going back probably 20 years when, probably a bit before your time, but going back 20 years when the ideas of recycling our, you know, household items was first brought in, and everybody thought, you know, it was unhygienic, I'm not separating my rubbish. And now it's one of those things that we do without even thinking anymore. So I think where that, you know, that push from government has come in, then really, you know, people do step up to the plate on it. So I think, you know, it's a really exciting space to be in at the moment. There's so much happening locally and nationally, and but you know, I'm just really excited that people are taking an interest in it, and you know, I'll certainly be doing my bit to help to drive to so we have a much greener local and national country.
Now I'm sure you're asking yourself, how can I help? What changes can I make? Well, it's very simple. Any change will make a difference. Limit the amount of single-use plastics you purchase. Recycle, reuse, re-gift rather than throw away. The list is endless. The most important thing is just to stop for a single second and think of how you can make the little change that could make a big difference. Working with businesses in Atherstone, the Atherstone Partnership, Seatheocean and North Warwickshire Borough Council have launched an initiative where businesses can show customers that they are actively taking one small step to tackle the environmental issues we all face. One small step invites businesses to just do that one little thing. It could be that you stopped using plastic bags or replaced a plastic item with a friendlier option, or even the simplest of things such as leaving your car at home if you can walk to work. It all counts. By taking a stance and changing just one thing within your business, you can show your customers that you are taking one small step to help our town. Simply join our Facebook page, One Small Step Atherstone, and let us know what you have done as a business, and we will send you an official window sticker to recognise that one small step you have taken. If we all choose to take that one small step, we can make a difference which will not only help our town be a better place to live for future generations, but help fight against pollution and waste on a global scale.
So there you have it, a little bit of focus on how we can all help keep our oceans and wildlife safe, which not only benefits us now, but our future generations by making the simplest of changes here in Atherstone. This can only happen with your help. It starts with you. Make those small changes and help secure our town, country and world for our future generations. Thanks for watching.